Alright, so welcome to the Introduction to Exploration class. This is a core class, so we'll just go over some basics. To start off, please set your microphone to push to talk if you are in Mumble. We do hold the class on the public Mumble. We also have our in-game channel class brackets uni channel, which you can use for asking questions, but you can also ask questions in the class questions channel on our Discord. And on Discord you can also see the presentation streamed there as well, but you won't be able to see stuff from in-game when I show some things there. So that's on the stream. Yeah, obviously best to stay docked up, or safe at least, to actually follow the class and concentrate on the class. But obviously if you want to do something else, be my guest as well. Okay, so as I said, it's an introductory core class, so we'll go over the basics. We'll just cover what is exploration in general, what is in it, what can you do there, what types of exploration is possible. We will only focus on one type of exploration here, so I'll briefly go over the different other types, but yeah, we'll focus on the classic hacking explorer, and we'll show you the basics of what you need to get started. Exploration is very, I would say extremely newbie friendly, maybe not from the mechanics, because you actually have to learn quite a bit of mechanics, but at least money and skill point investment wise, it's very easy to get into, and can make you great money as well. So that's really nice for newbies. So we show you what you actually need, skill and modular and chip wise. We have a few basic examples for how you can fit your different exploration ships, and then we'll go over the core mechanics, so the scanning and the hacking, and I'll show those live on stream as well. And then we'll go over some tips and tricks, and have a Q&A at the end if you get any questions. If I forget something again like last time, you can remind me obviously as well. Yeah, so if you have like a question that you want to have answered right away, obviously you can also speak up in Mumble. I'll try to keep an eye on class questions on Discord as well while doing the class, but I cannot monitor the in-game channel while doing the class, so I'll check that after we're done with the presentation. Okay, any questions to start with, or are we good to go? Okay, wonderful. Okay, what is exploration? Yeah, obviously you are exploring the wonderful world of New Eden. You can fly through the different systems and discover different things. You have a probe window, and you can also see just things in space as well. You can see the cosmic anomalies, for instance, when you just look around in space, and you can directly warp to them. So those are these green marked ones, the cosmic anomalies, and we have cosmic signatures. Those need to be scanned down or pinpointed, you could say, and then you can warp to them. So you can see them in space, you can see the rough position of them, you can see the rough position on your system map as well, but as long as you haven't scanned them down 100%, you cannot warp to them. So if we check out Cosmic Anomalies, you can just look in the the agency window. So if you look at the agency window, you can check out information about the different anomalies as well. But basically we have comet sites, we have ore sites, we have faction warfare sites. Those can all be directly warped to, although there are also at least ore and comet anomalies that are actually signatures you need to scan down and then can warp to. So for comet anomalies, obviously you'll need a comet capable ship. You can find those everywhere and just do your ratting or whatnot. You can do combat exploration as well through that. And then we have the ore sites. Obviously you just need mining ships for those. And the faction warfare sites are just in low-sec faction warfare space, and you need to be in a cooperation, either NPC or player cooperation that is actually engaged in faction warfare to actually use those. But if you are in just roaming for PvP in low-sec, those are also just a great place to get fights. So, as I said, we are focusing on the things we need to scan down, so the cosmic signatures. As I said, there are also combat sites and there are mining sites, particularly gas sites and wormholes that also need to be scanned down. So those are not really a concern for us here. They are out of the scope of the class, but just to mention them, you can also find those as well on your journeys, and you should know, okay, I can't, if you're focusing on hacking, this is not really something usually you can do. We also have the ghost sites. Those are quite rare, but can give you extremely good loot. You should read up on them first. They are a bit more specific. I can talk about it after the class as well. We also have other very specific cosmic signatures, most notably probably the sleeper caches, which are pretty in-depth with their mechanics. Obviously on the wiki we have extensive walkthroughs for those as well. The sleeper sites are also a really specific thing you can do as an explorer. Can talk about that after the class as well, some more. Then we have the wormholes we can scan down. Those are basically the bread and butter, I would say. Wormhole exploration, at least from my view, is really what you should be doing, even if you're just a T1 exploration frigate. At least once you have like some basic skills and a decent ship to actually do the scanning and hacking in wormholes, which is obviously quite a bit harder than in the other spaces. Just like with everything else, the more dangerous the space is, the harder everything gets and the better the payout. What we are more specifically looking for are relic and data sites, specifically the pirate versions. And for wormholes that's important because there are also sleeper sites, relic and data sites, and those have reds. So if you're exploring in wormholes, you need to make sure that the relic and data sites you warp to are actually safe. I'll quickly check for the link here. So I posted the link for the relic and data sites in Discord, so there you can check out what's safe and what's not safe. Okay, so the types of explorers obviously depend on the things you are looking for. You can be a combat explorer, where you actually get in a more combat capable ship, usually like basic rating ships like Gila, but other cruisers as well. Can do it in Battle Cruiser or something. Basically, you just need to be PvE combat capable and also be able to scan things down. Some people also go around and look for combat sites with a fast scanning ship and then go through them with combat ships as well. So either way that works. I haven't done combat exploration really, so I can't talk about that too much, but this is also not the focus of the class. Yeah, we are focusing on the classic hacking explorer, so you will get a standard exploration ship, basic T1 frigates or co-ops ships, and do the hacking of relic and datasets. So what do you need? You need some basic ships. We have basic T1 frigates you can find in the ship tree as well, but these are the 4 exploration frigates. They are bonus for exploration. All of them they have slightly different layouts, which favors the Heron pretty much as the go-to standard or best newbie exploration ship, because you can fit modules that help you scan easier. I obviously prefer the probe because trust rust, but yeah, you can use either of them, and the better your racial frigate skills are, the better your bonuses are, obviously, and they give bonus to core and combat scanner probe strength. Combat scanner probes, not something you need for being a basic explorer, but we can talk about that later as well if you like. That's for combat probing. The salvager duration, yeah, you can also fit a salvager as well and use that, but that's not really, usually not really something that is worth much to do while you're doing your hacking and scanning. And you get the virus strength. We'll talk about what that means in a little bit once we can come to the hacking. If you're a bit more skilled SP-wise and more experienced in the game as well, and have your first little bit of money, I mean, basically if you're actually not just doing high-sec exploration, maybe low-sec exploration, but if you're actually going to Warmos and null-sec with your T1 frigate, you can really make a lot of money relatively easily. Obviously you can also lose it quite easily, but basically you can do one run and afford a T2 ship if you're decently lucky, so that's usually not a problem, but obviously you need the skills and you should know a bit more about what you're doing before jumping into these, because obviously they are more costly. And you can also fit the get into the very iconic Sisters of Eve ships, especially the Astero. Later on you could also use the Stradius, but that's more for advanced things. But to start off you could use the Astero. It's a lot more costly, or quite a bit more costly than the T2 co-op ships, but it's easier to get into skill-wise, and has a pretty good bonus, better than the T1 ships, to start off with for scanning and hacking. But if your maximum, if your skills are maxed for any of these ships, any of the co-op ships, then those have a bit better bonuses than the Astero. Okay, what do you need module-wise? So obviously you need the probe launcher, you need the core scanner probes to fit into those. You can later upgrade those things, obviously, but yeah, that's just to start off. Usually you go for a Sisters probe launcher later, and then Sisters probes to fit into those. The T2 core probe launcher isn't usually used that much, I would say, at least in my experience. And then we have the data analyzer and the Radic analyzer. Obviously those have T2 versions as well. Once you can fit those, you should really use them to make the hacking much easier. And there are also special analyzers who combine both of them. The Sigma is the best one, but those cost, I can't think right now, over 150 million, so not really something you should strive for doing, getting right at the start, especially not in a ship that costs $1 million. We have also other modules that, well, are not necessarily needed, but obviously are very, very helpful. Some people also use warp core stabilizers. I wouldn't. It can save you in some situations, but in a lot of situations you're better off having the more speed and just get out quickly. So inertia stabilizers or nanofibers. And the warp core stabilizers also lower your, or actually worsen your targeting, so that can slow down your site running a bit. So 5MN micro warp drive and nanofibers or maybe inertia stabilizer can make the site running pretty quick, so that you're less likely to actually get caught. And then there are also convenient modules like the cargo scanner to see which cans are actually worth scanning down, because that's the thing with exploration. You can get lucky, you can get unlucky, and the cans can have anything from nothing or a lump of carbon up to tens of millions in them. So some people really just scan all the cans and then pick just the most valuable ones. I usually do all the cans, but yeah. And we have the scan range running array that helps a lot, especially when starting out and actually scanning down the signatures. And here are some example fits. The variation between these, I mean, I just added the probe fit, so that's 1.3 mil, a lot more than the others, but it's just down to the price hikes in the last little bit. But they are pretty much around 1 million, all of them, pretty much all of the time. So really cheap, really easy to get into, and it's not a big deal when you do some. You can easily have one run and have your whole hangar full of them, put it out, and just do it over and over again. But yeah, they are also all pretty much the same fit. Obviously you can fit them in other ways as well, but that's just a basic standard starting fit. Here as an example. Generally just fit a MWD, fit the analyzers. Some people also just use the data analyzer and focus on the data sites, but I usually go for both. Obviously core probe launcher, scanning probe, and then maybe nanofibers, which have a little bit more speed. And if you have the space in the mid slots, you can use the scan range finding arrays, and that's where the Heron really is. That's why the Heron is a go-to frigate for new explorers, because you can fit 2 range finding arrays. It has the most mid slots of all of those ships, and that makes scanning a lot easier. Then we have the different skills. So we have the base skill Astromatics. That that should obviously be maxed first before maxing all the others. So maybe go for level 4 in Astromatics, then level 4 in everything else, and then go for Astromatics level 5. That's probably what I would do nowadays as well. You get scan strength, scan deviation, and probe scan time bonuses on Astromatics, and then you have 3 skills: Astromatic, Rangefinding, Pinpointing, and Acquisition, that just affect each one of those stats. Scan strength, basically, how good your probes are at scanning something down. Scan deviation, just how much it can deviate on in the scanning window. And the scan time is each time you click the scan button, it takes a while to run the scan, and then it gets faster. More skilled you are. And then we have obviously the 2 sites, so relic and data sites. Archaeology is for the relic sites, for the hacking, and the hacking skill is for the hacking of the data sites. And those give bias coherence. We'll talk about what that means once we get to the hacking part. Yeah, alphas have the ability to also get into exploration, and decently so. When I came back to the game last summer, I was alpha for quite a while and did alpha exploration. And as long as you're not going to wormholes, it's definitely really easy to do, even with alpha skills. If you get like with hacking rigs plus the scanning enhancement, I think it should also be the range finding array. It should also be doable in wormholes as well. But yeah, it can be tougher obviously as an alpha if you want to do like the tougher sites, but it's doable. And then really the most important is the player skills. So you yourself as a player need to learn about game mechanics and need to be able to execute different things. And those are obviously basics of ship navigation. You should know how to get from system to system, how to move in a system. We will not cover that here. You should know your way around bookmarks. That's also not what we are covering here. We have other classes on bookmarks, and the overview should also be very familiar to you as well. All those things are really important to actually stay safe, especially bookmarks, and then using the overview correctly. To stay as safe as possible. You are never safe, obviously. And what we are going to cover right now is scanning down the site and then the hacking minigame. So when we scan down a site, we have the probe scanner window, and we have the system map. Those can be detached or together in one, and then you will see all the stats you have, so your scanning probes you have, and then scan strength, deviation, and scan time, and you can see the signatures. You can also filter out any things you're not interested in. So for instance, the anomalies that are already green, that are warp 2, you could filter those out. And then you have the probe size that affects the range, the scanning range of each probe. And the lower the range is, the stronger the scan gets. So you start off with a higher range and then gradually tune it down until you actually have the signal as at 100%. So at the beginning you just have a rough view where it could be, and at the end you have a warp point. In between you will see the name actually changing to, for instance, gas site or relic site, data site, and in the end you will have the actual name of the site. Actually, I think I'm gonna quickly switch over to the game and see if I can find something to scan down right now. Okay, so we have a few sites here in Amy, sure, so I can quickly show the scanning portion. So if you want to see that, just going to take a little bit, just a couple minutes, you can switch over to or look at my stream if you want. Yeah, so basically we have the window here. You can obviously resize whatever, do whatever you like, arrange it the way you want to. And then we have the different sites here. I have nothing filtered here right now. I would filter out the anomalies, so everything that can be warped to is filtered out of this because that's of interest to me anyway.
I don't think we can see it on the Discord stream.
Yeah. You'd have to switch over to my Twitch stream if you wanna watch that.
Oh, my bad.
It's just gonna take like 2 minutes. Yeah, I just I'm not showing the in-game view over Discord because I have no overlay for the stream, so for the chat and such. Okay, yeah, so we have the cosmic signatures here. Don't know what they are. You can double click on them to zoom in on them or to focus on them, and then we can go around, move the camera around, zoom in and out with the mouse wheel, obviously. What's really neat is you can just double click and space to switch from top-down view to a side view, and you basically just need those two to quickly position your probes accurately. So before we actually launch probes, we have this launch button, and once they are launched, we have the analyze button here. We can now see the probes here and we can move them around. Looking at the probes themselves, you have yeah, like yeah, you can drag them around either by highlighting these planes, and then you can move them in plane, so like this, on either the vertical plane or the horizontal plane, and then you have the little arrows, and then you can have them move around on a line. So that's really handy. You can see the range of each of the probes here. They are all overlapping. You can use the slider to change the range. Usually you'd start out with a probe size of 8. You have different formations. You can save your own formation if you want, but usually just the pinpoint formation is totally fine. You can also use the thread formation to scan the whole system, but I only use the pinpoint standard formation, and that works really well. Yeah, you can also use hotkeys, obviously. So, for instance, standard you can hold down Alt and then scroll down or up with the mouse wheel to change the range, and with Control you can change the arrangement of the probes, get them closer together, if you really need that extra last 0.5% or something. So let's just check out one of the signatures, move into the center, get to 8AU and click on Analyze. And it runs through. The probes also have to warp to the spot as well. And then we have a wormhole scan down here. This is yellow already, so we can see it's a wormhole. Usually if it's a different site, you could see the type of site as well. You also see the icons changing here. So this is a wormhole icon. And for other sites, you will later see once it's green, actual name of the site. But wormholes are just wormholes. So we just move our probes there again and reduce the range. If you're just starting out, you might need to go like really step by step to do it. Once you have a bit of skills, you can usually skip one step easily and then still be able to go further. Obviously, I have decent skills in scanning and specific shift for that, so it's really easy, and wormholes are also relatively easy to scan down. And the other side is a combat side, so I would ignore that, but you can also see the combat icon here. What you can also see is the difficulty. So if you see here, it shows here level 2, and when you see when you hover over it, you can also see here in the system map there's a scanning difficulty level 2. So those are obviously an indication how hard it is to scan the sites down. And then you can click to warp to, or you can right click and warp to a different distance as well. That can be helpful in more dangerous space where you might not want to land on the warp in beacon and maybe be attacked right away. Yeah, I'd say that's probably all you need to see for the scan so far. Pretty basic. Maybe any questions right now concerning the scanning? Yeah, you warped to the wormhole. Okay. Yeah, wormholes are pretty cool, especially if you go into the wormhole and then see the wormhole effect. Maybe if there's a wormhole effect. There are different other special wormholes as well, but if you go to wormholes, never forget to bookmark your exit, because otherwise you might not find your way back. So be aware of that. Okay, let's switch back to the presentation. And we move over to the hacking. Obviously, usually you need a data or relic site, but I can still show it to you once we run through it, because you can also hack structures. Not really to get anything, you just get a vulnerability timer, which is nice for Intel, not really concerning for us, but you can use that for practice as well. So if you go into any relic or data sites, you always have the same hacking minigame. Basic layout, you have all these nodes here. You start at, let's say, over here, and all the orange, red ones are the explored nodes, so you just start with one, and then you have the one ones you can go to. These ones here, those lighter ones, those you can click on, and the grey ones, the faded ones, you are not able to explore right now. So you need to click your way through, basically, through this whole grid until you find the system core. That can be a green, yellow, or red, depending on the difficulty. And along the way you will find hazards, and you will find data caches, and you will find utility subsystems. So the hazards are the defensive subsystems, and we have different utility subsystems you can pick up. So you uncover them, then you click on them again, and then they are in your inventory. And you can click on those then to activate them. Some need to be applied to, for instance, defensive subsystems or the system core, and some work on you or your virus and help you out. For instance, this one repairs you, this one gives you a shield, so invulnerability for 2 hits, and so forth. We also have the data caches. Those I'd usually ignore, because they can also uncover a defensive subsystem, but they might also be a utility subsystem under them, but usually I just ignore them until I'm really desperate and maybe want to gamble on getting something positive. And then we have the stats for our virus. That is determined obviously by our skills, by our ship bonuses, and by our module bonuses. This has coherence and strength, and coherence is basically hit points, and strength is basically damage. And you see the same on all the nodes here, the subsystems and the core. So here's the HP at the top, and down at the bottom is the damage. All in all, you need to imagine this as a grid where you move around step by step, and each step is a turn, and each click on an enemy or on something you want to pick up is a turn as well. It's a turn-based, I don't know, tactics, strategy game maybe, in a very basic form. Yeah, and the core is what you really want. And once the core is destroyed, you can open the can. The minigame just closes, and then you open the can. To actually activate the minigame, you need the analyzers. So if you are in a data site, you lock up a can and use the data analyzer, and if you're in a relic site, you use the relic analyzer, and then the hacking minigame just opens up. What's probably really important about the hacking minigame, yes, you have this huge window in front of you and you need to focus on it. You need to somehow get through it, because you have only 2 chances to get to the loot. So you can fail this once and then try it again, but if you fail it the second time, the can is destroyed and you get no loot. But you should not forget your peripheral vision, so always keep your peripheral vision on your overview, wherever that might be, or your D-scan, because this is really, once you are hacking, that is the part where you are most vulnerable, and if you are outside of high sec, this is the one situations where hunters are most likely to attack you. Okay, so as I said, you have your virus coherence, you have your virus strength, hit points and damage, and all the different defensive subsystems, and the core have those as well. As I said, it's a turn-based game, so if you attack a core or a defensive subsystem and it still lives after you attacked it, it will attack back with the damage it does. Yeah, we have the firewalls and the antivirus. Those are the basic standard nodes that are in every difficulty. This is green here, but this is, well, it's just a picture. This is not how it would actually look like, because on the green side you will not find the restoration nodes and the virus suppressors. Restoration nodes come once you're on medium difficulty sites, and virus suppressors at the highest difficulties. The restoration nodes are probably pretty much the most important to kill right away, if you find them, because they actually give, with each turn, each thing you do in the minigame, they give more HP to any of the other uncovered nodes. The virus suppressor is also really hard because it lowers your damage, so you pretty much also always need to kill it right away. For the virus suppressor, it's really nice. It has the 60 HP, always the 60 HP, and the secondary vector is basically a dot, a damage over time effect that you can pick up. If you get that and you find a virus suppressor, you can just apply that to the virus suppressor and then do something else, and after it's run its course, the virus suppressor will be dead. Kernel rot, also really nice to apply to any of the nodes, because it halves the current health of the node. So even if the restoration node, let's say, has applied a few turns worth of HP to any of the other nodes, so maybe this one has now 150, 160 HP. Once you apply the kernel rot, that will be halved, 80 for instance. The Polymorphic Shield, as I mentioned before, that gives you invulnerability there, basically for 2 turns, so just activate it and then you can attack any of the defensive subsystems or the cores, and when they damage you back, they do no damage. And the self-repair also you just activate it, and then you have 3 turns of healing basically. And the system cores, you can see the medium and the high difficulty ones here. And I've covered the data caches as well. Prioress, you asked about the virus suppressors, but I guess I just covered them, so if there are any questions about those, then shoot. Yeah, so that's basically the gist of the hacking minigame, if you have any questions about them. Mayani asks, can I see the scan downside in the D-scan display? No. The sites are only visible well in space. You can look around and see them there, but you can not see them in the D-scan window, but only in the probe scanner window. Priors asks, where can I find the slides? Let me just quickly search for the link. And here on the wiki side, on the right side, you will find the PDF as well. That's what you were asking about, Mayani. Okay, so how can I find out if there are enemies at the scan down site? You cannot descan, or you cannot see the site on descan. You can obviously descan the site, so you can focus on the site with your descan and if there is anyone there, you can find that out. Yes, prayers. This recorded, so it's on the Twitch channel as a VOD, and then I'll export it to my YouTube channel as well afterwards, in chunks with the main part, and then any Q&A or anything afterwards as well. Okay, the rule of 6. Yeah, that's basically the most important thing you need to know about the hacking minigame. You can abuse that sometimes really heavily, make the hacking a lot easier. So it says, let's say, in the end, a node that is surrounded by 6 other nodes is always safe, unless the system core is on any of the 6 surrounding nodes. Or the system core could also be there, obviously, but then you basically already won. So you can always use these patterns to focus on the center of these clusters, and then you just click through those center points, and those should always be safe unless you actually have the core around any of these nodes. So that can make the hacking a lot easier. Okay, let's actually show you the hacking. So I'm just gonna switch my stream back to... okay, use loud. Yeah, I'll tone it down. Like this, hopefully. Okay, so I'm just in a live view again. And we have our nice Hotel Sierra Charlie citadel here. But you can also use any other structure. This is not an act of aggression. It's just, yeah, you can just hack a structure and use that for practice if you want. Structures are quite hard to hack, at least the Fortisars. So if you want, you can also get the experience of how to hack a wormhole site if you're ready for wormhole sites, or the higher skill sites in general. You can get a sense for that. You can obviously hack them over and over again, fail them endlessly. So just like you would target a can in a relic or data site, you can target the structure and then use your analyzer. You need the data analyzer for the structures. And here we have the hacking grid. This is a big hacking grid because it's a higher level site or higher level node, let's say. And we have a few, you can already see we have a few where we can apply the rule of 6. So you can plan basically your route around there. What I didn't mention before, actually, the core is well, it's not always, but it's most likely to be basically on the opposite side of the grid from where you start out. So it's most likely to be right down here right now. Could also be over here or over here maybe, but yeah, it's not anywhere close to where you start usually. You can find grids where you just start pretty much in the middle, so that can also be tricky. But yeah, let's just go through here. I also forgot something. You will see popping up here are the numbers. And these numbers, so there was a 4 here, there was a 3s here, tell you that there is the number of jumps away or the number of clicks and the number of nodes away. There is something there. So there might be a defensive subsystem, there might be the core, or there might be a utility subsystem 3 jumps away. So here, 2 jumps away, there's a utility subsystem, for instance, or could be. Well, we also already uncovered one, so we can click there, and then we know, okay, that's covered here. But we also have a defensive subsystem here, now uncovered, the firewall. Yeah, I will ignore that for now, because I also have a different way to go. Okay, there's another one. As you can see, obviously, the antivirus does more damage but has lower health. I can kill the antivirus. You can check your virus strength here. I do 40 damage. So I can kill the antivirus in 2 hits. I cannot kill the firewall in 2 hits. So here I just use this one. So it can only attack me 1 time back. And then I go through here. Okay, there's another one. So I'm nearly dead, but maybe I can find. Okay, so on any of these nodes there might be something, might be the core, but it could also be just a data cache. But there's a core. Yeah. And we kill that one, and we get the timer here. And otherwise, if you were to do an actual data site, you will open the can, the window will close, and you can just click on looting the can. Yeah, that's basically the minigame. Okay, any questions on the hacking minigame? Priorist asked basically, what would you recommend to train first to file Radic or data analyzing? So either archaeology or hacking. Yeah, for me, as I said, I do both sides, but there are a lot of people that just focus on data sites because usually you can yeah, get a bit better loot there. So if you want to focus on data sites as well, do the hacking first. But yeah, for me it doesn't really matter, but I guess focusing on the hacking skill then makes the most sense. Mayani asks, is there some rule of thumb in which systems to find more sites, like more in Genesis or more in systems, fewer stations? Fewer stations not, but obviously what is really important is how busy is the region of space where you are, or the systems where you go through. Are there a lot of other people?
Docking request accepted.
If there are a lot of other people, the sites might already be done. And there are regions, I believe, that are in nullsec that are a bit better. But in general, it's just important which sec status the systems actually have and how busy they are, pretty much. Okay, we have a few more questions going in, but let's just finish the presentation first, and then we go through some more questions. So a few basic tips and tricks. Safety, yeah, if you do high sec exploration, obviously you're pretty much safe, but other than that, you are never safe. You can go into very lonesome regions, lonesome systems where you will not find any people around you, and obviously if you are in known space, if you're not in Wormhole space, if you're in K space, not in J space, so in nullsec or lowsec, you can always just check your local and see who's in there, and you are safe fish, at least in the system, if there's nobody in local. But obviously in Wormholes there's no local, so you don't see who's there, or delayed local to be specific, but yeah, you don't see who's in system. So yeah, as I said, obviously you can fit warp core stabilizers. I would not recommend it, but yeah, you can do that. But the most important thing to stay safe is really just be fast and use your dscan and overview and local if you're on K-space. You should rename your ship, obviously. Do not use never, ever. Doesn't matter if you do exploration or anything else, never use your normal standard ship name once you assemble a ship, because that always has your name in it. So everyone who just descans can see exactly who your ship belongs to or in what ship you are sitting specifically. Yeah, while you're warping around you can scan as well, so you can use that. Obviously otherwise, if you're sitting still, do it on a bookmark that you created as safety in a system, and ideally cloaked. If you're alpha you cannot cloak, but you can still be relatively safe, because if you're on a bookmark that you created yourself, people need to actually combat probe you. So as long as you don't see any combat probes on your dscan, you are basically safe if you just created a new safety and yeah, sit at that one. Yeah, as I said, watch local, dscan your overview, that's the most important thing really as well. And then yeah, use your bookmarks, to create safe bookmarks. Usually what I do is I get in a system when I've never been there, especially Wormhole space. I warp to some central celestial, get a bookmark on the way, get, depending on the amount of space I have to cover, if there are different, if my dscan encompasses the whole system, or if I have to go to some other planet outside my dscan range, I can get a few more saves on the way as well. Yeah, and possibly create saves between different bookmarks as well. Yeah, and for nullsec, loadsec, you should pretty much never warp gate to gate. Use gate purchase tacticals, or warp to celestial that's nearby, so you can actually descan the gate and make sure that there's no bubble camp or gate camp in any way, or smart bomb camp which will obliterate you. Yeah, and yeah, if you're in the uni, you can also use our campus folders and bookmark sites for those if you're not planning on doing them yourselves at the time, so others can use those bookmarks. And obviously expect to lose your ship, as always. Once you board a ship in EVE, basically write it off. That's the best thing, really. The moment you made the investment, you should consider the money gone, even if you might use the ship for quite a while. Especially the T1 frigates are super disposable. As I said, they are basically around 1 million, and you can make tens or even hundreds of millions in a single run, so it really doesn't matter. Don't fret about it. Just don't be in a pod. Don't be in your training pod or in any